when we can dance. We're good. Thank you. Thank you, council, administration, and guests, and people listening at home. We are back live. I'm going to call the meeting back into session for the balance of the evening. Two things I want to start with. Based on where we're at so far, the tax increase is proposed to be approximately 2.26%, as opposed to 3.66 we started at 2 days ago. So that's kind of where we're at, people listening at home, and for council administration's mission in general. We are scheduled to finish at 9 o'clock. We'll do our best to finish there. But I do want council administration to don't mind the clock. If you have something to say, we need to debate something, I want you to do what we need to do. If we have to go past 9 o'clock for a little bit, we'll do that. If we have to recess at 9 and reschedule for another day, we'll do that too. I don't want anybody to not say something because they're mindful of the clock. That's a natural instinct to do that, but please don't. And please make sure you express yourself if you need to, and we'll do our jobs accordingly. Thank you very much. We're going to finish off protective services. This also includes a new position for our firefighter. So I'll make that clear. We're going to, if there's no debate any further, we'll simply pass this section on. Are there any concerns, questions, or motions any further on protective services? Councillor Tessier, you have the floor.
Hey, Chief, I got a few questions for you if you don't mind coming up.
Thank you, Director Melvin. Do we address you as Chief or Director Melvin, or Jay's good?
Your worship, whatever you wish.
Okay. Director Melvin, thank you for joining us. Councillor Tessier, you have the floor.
So for this position, this doesn't increase our service levels, or will it, because it'll go 7 days a week?
Presently, right now, where we're currently staffed, obviously we're staffed for full 4 positions currently. This position here will add a position and enable us to continue to do our current level of service. But will this move us to a 7-day rotation? Not without a severe demand to the volunteer system, where committed shifts would have to be scheduled way in advance, and we're putting a lot of demand on the volunteers to fill a municipal level of service. So one position will not move us to a 7-day-a-week, 4-person per shift type of rotation, if that's your question.
That does, thank you. And the new position won't change the HERF either. It'll just stay what it is, correct?
We are still currently operating 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, with the support from the volunteers and automated dispatch from other municipalities that surround our borders.
But for the HERF, like, we're not going to meet that 90% of the time.
Correct.
Still with this, even if this new position was
correct.
Before. Okay. And what's the call volume at right now?
I believe, if I recall, 356. Plus or minus. I think that's where DC advised me last week, but I could be slightly off.
Okay. Thank you. That's it for now.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Barnard, do you have any questions? I'll give you the opportunity if you do. Are you good right now?
I could ask one question, if I may. Thank you very much. I haven't met Mr. Chief Melville. I've been out of town, so sorry, I don't even have your name correct. I will apologize in advance and I'll get to know you better. But what I would like to...
Kathy, we've lost your audio. Would you please get rid of your video?
To ask you is, so the comment, the requirements for, is that required? Oh dear, there we go again. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, try your question again, please.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Chief, the question that was just asked of you, with the one firefighter being added, we still will not meet our response times. Is that the correct interpretation of what you just said? I'm not sure I heard it correctly.
In accordance with the regulations within the Alberta Building Code, when it comes to high intensity residential fires, adding one firefighter will not meet that safety codes when it comes to developers building residential properties in our area.
And should I assume that you were not in the position you're in now when this budget was put together?
I am coming in late to the game. I had some small input, but the budget was pushed forward, I believe, almost through to council before I arrived.
knowing what you know now, do you think one firefighter additional is sufficient?
Through your worship to Councillor Barnhart, my question, it depends on what the city defines as their level of service for the fire service. If they're looking for a 7-day-a-week coverage with a minimum 4-person response time 24/7, one person will not do that. But once again, I believe this needs to be a phased-in approach when it comes to emergency services. We just can't say from one year to next to the ratepayers, well, we were fine last year and now we need 8 positions or whatever number of positions that we've identified. I think as the community grows and the risk grows, we can easily phase in these approaches. This methodology is in accordance with our 2018 Fire Service Excellence Review, which shows that year 4, as I stated yesterday, was the first time that we should be started implementing new positions as the community grows and the level of service grows to the ratepayers. So.
Thank you for anticipating my next question, because I know we just completed that fire service review not that long ago. And so this is in keeping with what the recommendations did tell us to do. Is that correct?
That is correct, based on my research of the review.
Thank you very much, and welcome to Beaumont.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Chief, if I may ask a question, if I may. So right now we have 4 full-time firefighters at the present time.
Presently, we have 4 full-time staff that are there. That includes myself.
Right. So effectively, by adding a 5th firefighter, that's 4 full-time. You're kind of the backup guy, if you will. So by default, having this 4th firefighter full-time and you as a backup, that does improve service. Won't get us to hurt levels, but it's going to be an improvement, right? You can't say it wouldn't be. Would you agree?
Correct. My role on the fire scene is incident command, where I control of the scene as a chief officer. Typically, your fire chief is not part of your first response crew. Obviously, if someone calls in sick or the normal mitigation, but it's not a scheduled piece. My role also as the chief here is obviously the fire investigation piece that I need to complete as part of being a safety codes officer and a fire investigator. So that's also a piece that comes into effect on any type of emergency. So that's where primarily a fire chief, and typically many municipalities are very similar to our size. That's the role that I would play.
Okay. Councillor Tessier, one final comment.
I would just like to make a motion.
You have the floor. Sorry. I thought I had touched the screen. My apologies. Go ahead. You're on now.
I just would like to remove the position of firefighter. Can I speak to that now?
Just let.
Perfect. Now, it's hard for me to do this, but the only reason I'm doing it is because it doesn't affect major change. And if we keep just hiring one, every budget cycle or every 2 years, we're going to be carrying that firefighter for years and years until that service level actually changes. I would like to see from yourself, not maybe 2 or 3 in the next few years, and a good plan to show council what is the plan. Not in 10 years from now we're going to get there and we need one every couple of years. At a call volume of 356, it doesn't suit my needs personally, sitting here for just one firefighter.
Thank you, Councillor Tessier. Discussion on the motion. Councillor McGough-Swain, followed by Councillor Miller. Sam, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. So I couldn't be more opposed to this. You asked for a plan. We have a plan in place. It's the fire service review. We put that in place. This is acting on that. I'd like to give the chief a chance to dive through that, wait for maybe more than day 9 to push him on that. But we went through and paid for a fire service review for a reason. They're the experts who looked at it. They said this phased-in approach will work. Give the chief a chance to get in, get him off the day-to-day truck, so we can take a look at that broader piece. So to me, this is an absolute no-brainer, and I won't go down to a monthly cost for you. Yeah, this is, you asked for a plan. We have one. I'd encourage you to look at that, and this follows that plan. So let's follow the experts who put this plan in place for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Ashley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to, I'm sorry,
Director Milburn.
Director Melvin. Sorry, thank
Sure,
you.
no
Welcome to
worries.
Beaumont. It's great to have you. I'm on the fence about this one. I obviously, I fully support having another full-time firefighter. I'm still, it's still kind of, if you could actually just explain to me the rationale behind the education and training for our paid on-call guys and how that's going to factor in, because we are so heavily reliant on that group. How will, say if we didn't take on a new full-time firefighter, how are we going to utilize that group to help improve service, or what are we going to do to increase their education / training, I guess, if we don't hire this one? Because in the description here, it does say, on the basis we hire this new firefighter, we will accelerate the education / training program for our volunteer firefighters. Does that mean nothing will really happen with them if we don't hire this person?
Presently, right now, we have a very robust training program for the volunteer firefighters compared to many years ago when it was just show up and go.
Right.
Right now, we really focus a lot on the making sure that they're trained to a specific standard that is recognized Canada-wide, worldwide. That is presently being done. We are obviously, based on the level of service, we're starting to increase our medical first response, which is a piece also. But the big, I guess, the takeaway from this is that we're putting a lot of demand on a volunteer service where their job is not to be a firefighter for a city. Their job may be to work with another business in town or whatever, and they enjoy being a volunteer, and many departments are like that. Not saying that that is a bad thing, but we really need to be cautious on how much demand we're putting on these folks. At the end of the day, they're there to support our system, not to replace it, as in going backwards. And I understand from replacing one. Ideally, it would be nice to have it be coming here and saying we need 10, but I don't believe that's a realistic expectation for me to ask of council and of the ratepayers of this community. But based on the review and based on the research that I've done, and I would agree that it's been a short time since I've been here, but I have read through that document, and I believe that what his administration has put through is in accordance with their recommendation that was presented to the council of the day. So.
Right. Okay. So I think it's fair to say this new full-time firefighter is just one step in the direction of getting more on staff in the future, so that we can be.
It is more boots on the ground. So when an emergency comes in, we can get there in a fashion where we can mitigate the hazard, whatever that is. If that's a structure fire, if that's a rescue situation, if that's an accident, whatever that emergency and the call for emergency services is from the fire service, as we can get there in a timely fashion.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Newkirk, just beat me to the punch. Go ahead, please. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Just we talked about the fire service review, and there's a review of staffing in there, and in the staffing level consideration section, and it says the increase in staffing can be incremental through the hiring of one full-time firefighter per year as call volumes of staffing challenges dictate. So, for the reasons that that I just heard, and the lack of the ability to get where we need to be, I think we'd be taking a step backwards and not putting this position forward. So I won't be supporting this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? For the sake of brevity, I'll simply say I support this motion. I support the firefighter position. I'm not prepared to take the position away. So I won't say any more than that in the interest of time. So thank you, Director Melvin. Appreciate your feedback and the comments. At this point, I'll call for the motion to forward. Councillor Tessier. Very
One
briefly,
last
please.
comment.
Very briefly.
I want to make this clear. Obviously, I'm not against the position. I was just against it not changing anything. I understand the plan forward and taking on new employees every year, but the service doesn't change, our problem doesn't change, and nothing gets fixed.
Thank you for that additional comment. We appreciate you clarifying your position and your reasoning. Thank you very much. Council, I'll call for the vote on the motion. Councillor Barnhart, your vote, please.
I am opposed to the motion that's on the screen.
Thank you. And the motion is defeated 6-1. Councillor Tessier voted in favor. Thank you, Council. Appreciate that. Is there any additional information or discussion to have on protective services? So to be clear, the firefighter position has been retained in the funded portion of the budget and does form part of the tax increase at 2.26% at the present time. Seeing no further discussion on protective services, we'll move on to the next section of our operating budget. Let me advance my screen one moment, please. And that is to recreation, page 80 of the agenda if you're online, page 72 of the agenda if you're on a hard copy. Are there any concerns or questions or motions from council regarding recreation at this time? There is, I believe, a position that is new this year, proposed in the funded section of our budget, being the outdoor programmer. Is there any discussion or concerns from council on this particular topic? I'll start with Councillor Miller. You have the floor, Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, what page is the recreation on in our online agenda?
It would be on page 14 for the positions,
Yeah.
but we're in recreations on 72 for the whole
72.
recreation department.
Okay, so I am prepared to make a motion. I think Shalene's going to bring that up.
Thank you. A motion on this position or something
Sorry,
different?
no, this is not on the position.
Okay, then I'll withdraw my comment asking for questions about the position, and we'll proceed with Councillor Miller's motion. And when that's done, we'll go back to the question on this particular position. Thank you.
Okay.
Just for clarity purposes. Motion, please, when you have it available. Thank you.
Okay. So I would like to make the motion that the recreation facility enhancements program be increased by, I don't know, I'm gonna ball this. See, this is where I have a problem because I'm back to Van Nieuwenkerk's analogy of shooting in the dark here. I don't know the cost for this, but I'm just gonna go ahead with the motion without putting that dollar amount in there at this time.
Okay.
Be increased for adding lighting for portable outdoor unboarded rinks, that being Monteley, Milou, St. Patel Nature Park, and Montrose. So can I speak to that motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the basis of thinking behind this is it gets dark, especially in the winter months when this is utilized. A lot of the younger demographic head to these surfaces to avoid kind of the boarded, shinny, highly utilized rinks. I just wanted to provide, a lit surface for them, some sort of option for portable lighting, so that they can actually utilize this past 5 o'clock when there's sunset. So that's my thinking on that, and that's about it.
Thank you, Councilor. I believe also you were mentioning earlier that you were thinking from the safety perspective too, for safety reasons as part of your thinking, I believe. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, correct. Currently, when I'm putting those surfaces, there's either no light because there isn't any lighting towers or anything there, or parents are actually pulling their vehicles up to light these surfaces. So in my mind, that poses, it's great that they're trying to light the surface, but that also poses all sorts of safety issues. And I've got vehicles trying to drive around surfaces with young children. So, very much.
Thank you, Councilor Miller. I have two questions before I go to Councilor Van Nieuwkerk. Councilor Miller, are you envisioning possibly permanent lighting, or would you be interested in discussing portable lighting that could be bought? And I've seen they run on a generator and they have little light towers that go up, but you can store them, that sort of thing. So portable lighting versus permanent is a completely different discussion. What are your thoughts on that as part of your motion?
That's right. I am proposing portable lighting 100% just because these, I'm not sure the exact positioning of the surfaces, and I don't think they're necessarily permanent themselves, so portable is 100% the right.
Micheline, Ms. Winter, sorry, Ms. Winter, sorry. Could we amend the motion slightly as Councillor Miller had just alliterated to add the word portable? Thank you very much. So having said that, if I may, one more question before I turn to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk and other members of council. Oh, sorry, CEO Schwartz, you have a comment before I go any further?
Yeah, from a process perspective, a couple things. One is we may want to save this till we get to capital. This is a capital item. And the other is a consideration that there's a number of factors that would go into putting up even portable lighting. How big, how many, where they're located, how much they're costing, sourcing for it right now. So it'd be very difficult to come up with a cost. So what I'm thinking is that a suggestion would be to direct us to bring back a report in January with those costs. And then we can amend the budget unless Curtis is going to give me the stink eye and say, no, let's not do that.
Well, I'm definitely okay with that. That's,
Yeah.
kind of more along the lines of what I was initially thinking, so I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Well, then we'll suggestion is we bring it back to capital and then amend the motion.
So having said that, my thoughts were going to be, I was going to ask, this could be a capital funded expenditure or operating. It is capital in nature. So the question is, from a procedure perspective, do we withdraw the motion and then resubmit it in the capital section? I believe that's the best way to go. Ms. Winter?
But oh, I was going to refer to Curtis because being that they're
Sorry, there you
portable,
are.
I'm not
Oh, Curtis, you want to say
certain
something
capital.
first? Go ahead, please.
Yes, so to the mayor and just for everyone's information, if these are portable lights and they're on a lease basis, this could be part of the operating budget. If there's an actual capital purchase for the lights, then it would belong in the capital budget, just for clarity. Which doesn't clarify anything, I understand, but. Correct, the program that is referenced in the motion is in the capital budget.
Okay. So,
How the service is delivered could end up in the operating budget.
okay, gotcha. Ms. Winter?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to point out clarification that if Councillor Miller is wishing to have administration provide a report, it would be a subsequent motion. And we would bring back that report with that information that she's looking for. And again, as mentioned, it could be amended in the budget at a later time.
So when you say
has those
subsequent,
numbers.
it would be part of the capital budget, subsequent motions?
Subsequent motions are motions that are made that do not affect the approval of the budget. So these are reports that are coming back after the budget is approved.
Right, okay.
But
So,
that's not saying that the budget couldn't be amended at a later date, Mayor.
so we should ask Councilor Miller to withdraw the motion at this time and then.
If
submit
she
a
wishes
subsequent
to
motion?
withdraw the motion and have it as a subsequent motion,
Councillor
and then
Miller,
I
you have
can
the
work
floor.
with her to redraft.
So essentially that would push out the timeline of this season.
Yes,
No, possibly.
yes, Counselor, that would be what would happen.
I will.
Mike's on. Oh, sorry. I apologize.
I will withdraw the motion and come back with a subsequent motion. Thank you.
Perhaps we can assist Councilor Miller with that motion and we can try and expedite the timing of the motion to try and get some possible, if it passes, to get something done this skidding season. We'll see what we can do for you at that point. I do appreciate the timing and withdrawing the motion accordingly. Thank you, Councilor Miller. Councilor Van Nieuwkerk, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make a motion under the recreation piece here, and I'm more interested in kind of the subsequent conversation around it to see if there's obviously support because it'll force a vote. So I had provided the motion just a few moments ago, but okay, yeah, it's legislative services just working on it. So we'll just give them a second. That's fine.
Okay.
And then following talking about this motion, Mayor Daniluk,
Mhm.
I wanted to fire up a conversation with administration a little bit about an idea that I have that I believe will bridge both the municipal operating budget a little bit and then the capital budget a little bit. So just kind of
Okay.
this and then another thought pattern. So
Appreciate that. So what we'll do is we'll do your motion first. We'll deal with your motion. Then I'll ask council to address the outdoor programmer position with recreation. Having no discussion there, then we get to your idea. Okay? That's how we'll proceed. So please read your motion.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
the motion that I've put forward is that administration remove the backfilled soil from the historical outdoor rink on 56A Avenue and restore it as an outdoor rink in 2022. And my rationale for this is it was a surprise to the community in 2021 when the rink was removed and backfilled. It was a surprise to me too. Yes, I approved money in the budget to do that, but what I didn't understand at the time is that the action of backfilling this rink was, part of an operational piece in the past budget. So when I was outdoor knocking and went through the area surrounding that, there was quite the feedback saying, where did the rink go? Where did the rink go? Where did the rink go? And I received a couple of calls as it was being done, and one resident chronicled it, and I got all those pictures too. So anyways, it was a rink that had significant use, and it was well enjoyed by the community. So I'll stop there and see what council says and see if there's any support for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any discussion on the motion at this point? I have a question, if I may, before Councillor jump in. Is there a financial cost to doing this? And if so, where would it be coming from? I'm assuming there'd be a cost to do this in some way or form. Can we get an idea where implications may be? Mr. DeBlanco, I'll put you on the spot if I could.
Thank you. So in terms of the work being done here to restore it, it would be in the capital budget. And then in terms of maintenance, there would likely be a operating impact of the capital project. So we'd have to refer to the directors in infrastructure to give costs on that.
Okay. So when you said the word capital, then does Councillor Van Nieuwkerk's motion belong in the capital budget discussion? I don't know. I'm just asking the question because I'm sure he's thinking the same thing now when you mentioned the word capital. Can you provide some guidance on that? Or are we okay leaving it as part of this discussion here, please?
Yeah. So, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, we'll give Curtis a break here. Yeah, it would be part of the capital budget, so it would probably fit better over there as part of the motions.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mallow, I can't hear you. Sorry.
Sorry, it would be a better fit with the capital budget. Absolutely.
Okay. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, are you comfortable delaying this motion to the capital budget?
Yeah, for sure. And just my rationale it is because last year the funds to fill it in came out of the operating budget. So that's why I brought it up now. It was a project that was done internally using internal resources of the community, and it didn't require contractors. So my thought was that if it didn't require contractors to do it, to undo it shouldn't require contractors either. So that's why I brought it forward here.
That makes perfectly good sense. Mr.
Yeah.
Dollar, would you concur with that, or to just make sure we do the right thing at the right time, just so we're clear in procedure? Should we leave it here after having said that, or what do you prefer? Or what's most appropriate? Most appropriate, pardon me.
I'm happy to go with admin's recommendation, Mayor. I was just saying why I brought it up
Oh,
here.
okay.
right?
I
So-
appreciate that. So yeah, Mr. Dollar, I think we're good. We'll leave it at capital.
So I
and
think
we'll move on.
procedurally, I would just table this motion until the capital discussion. And
Yes.
legislative services has it and it's there, and we can bring it up and discuss it at that time.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
And so I'll move on now, if I could, to the position I wanted to talk about or get council's concerns, if any, regarding the outdoor programmer position, which is part of recreation operating budget. So are there any members of council can have concerns, issues regarding this outdoor programmer position as part of recreation? Councilor McCook, you have the floor, Catherine.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. Possibly through to Paul. In regards to this position, is there any support or anything to bring in some technology with it in regards to our technology program and stuff to kind of assist in it and to start to kind of automate some of that programming stuff, especially when it comes to user groups who have a consistent schedule and everything?
Through the mayor to Councilor McCook. Yes, I know where you're going with that. The challenge is though, we still need someone to manage. There's a lot of changing that goes on with bookings that automation can not always fix. A lot of liaison that has to be done. So I think there's a combination there for sure, but you still need a person to deal with on those fronts because a lot of that changes comes in by a phone at the last minute sort of stuff. It doesn't, play well in the automated world.
Mhm. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that you still need someone there kind of managing. I just wanted to know, will there still be like an automated part to it or an aspect of it online where potentially people could go and look and see if it's already booked?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We could certainly have that online for at least see what's available, and then they could, inquire to get it booked for sure. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Council, I will remind people to make sure your mic is close to your face. We can get a good, clear voice patterns from everybody. If it could, please just be mindful of your mic position or speak a little louder, whichever is more comfortable. Thank you. Councilor Miller, you have the floor. Go ahead, Ashley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through to Paul. Just a quick question. Has there been a lot of, have user groups reached out to you for a need for this extra kind of liaison? Because as far as I understand it, the user groups are basically in charge of correlating with their groups, the scheduling and the booking of certain things. So I'm just wondering, what is the actual need from the user groups for this liaison position?
Through the mayor to Councilor Miller, the need is around coordination of the groups, because every group independently will submit what their asks are, their allocation asks for the season. However, there is a lot of trading and negotiation that has to go on. It is part of our allocation process to manage that on a kind of a biannual basis with everybody that would be a class as a user group for the space. So this position was identified in our places in play as a weakness, as a service delivery gap. And as we add more assets for bookable amenities, bookable sports fields and whatnot outside, which we have done this year, we are still relying on one individual to do that. So we're expecting a lot as we grow, and the responsibilities continue to grow on this individual. I'd like to see it split so that we've got an indoor and outdoor, but they can also backfill for each other. So that's really the impetus for the ask for this position. If that answers your question a little bit. Thank you.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Any further discussion on this particular position? There's no motion against it, so I'm just going to assume we're fine with the questions as it is. I'll move on. Are there any additional questions or concerns or motions regarding recreation under the operating budget?
Mayor, I have one
Oh,
question.
sorry, Steve, I forgot you were going to come back. I apologize. Ashley, Steve, will have Councilor Miller or Councilor Barnard, you have the floor for a question. I'll come back to you, Steve.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Question is about the grants line item on page 73 in the recreation budget in the hard copy. And I wonder if Mr. Suter or someone else could describe to me what it is exactly that's in that $275,000. Because I know we have some predetermined amounts to certain groups, and then there's a pot of money that's allowed for community grants. Could you just delineate that for council, because it's been a while since we've heard that, and some of the new members may not have that information as well.
Through the mayor to Councilor Barnard, I'll try. I might miss something there. My math's not very good, but there's your annual allocation to the BSA, as well as Blues and Roots and the community grant program. This year, there's an additional $50,000 that administration has submitted. Ideally, that is anticipating some more funding requests coming through the Arts Council. The Arts Council really should be preparing that ask of council. That's the way the structure is meant to be. However, we're because they're not quite there in their process and their evolution yet. We're anticipating them getting there in 22. So 50,000 was a sort of a placeholder in anticipation of some more funding requests coming in through the Arts Council to support the arts and culture, as well as administrations recognizing that we've got to get closer to our 3-to-1 ratio between every $3 spent in recreation to the $1 spent in the arts, which is based on the policy that council adopted several years ago. So I don't know if my math added up to the 275, but I think I'm close there with what I've highlighted.
Do you recall how much we have for the Historical Society, for the Ag Society, those amounts? They were specified in advance, I think.
Through the Mayor, Council Barnhart, I believe it's 10,000 for the Ag Society, and it's either 10 or 15 for the Heritage Society. I can't remember offhand.
Okay, and so the grant pot that's available for any community group, any nonprofit community group to apply for hasn't changed. That's still the same.
That's correct. 75, I think it is, Council Barnhart. Yeah.
And the 50,000 is specifically for the arts community. And I guess following up on this, some of the questions, and part of this is my getting up to speed on the Arts Council, because I'm sitting there now, is the if groups have previously applied for community grant, and then the arts community, they might also apply for the arts grant. Is there going to be some work done on how and where groups can apply so that we're not having them applying to both and not knowing which one is the appropriate one?
Through the Mayor to Council Barnhart, yes, our new position, team lead with arts and events, is actually reviewing our community grant program, and that's something that she's looking at as part of that process, just to make sure that it's consistent, and as well as are we putting them in the right stream for their ask. You know, there's some perception of double dipping. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it, but is that something we need to entertain? Is it better to just keep it in one stream? So I'm having that review done now, and I'm hoping to bring something to committee of the whole in the new year on that.
In the new year. Okay, so
Yes.
we can expect to see that in February, perhaps? I know that the deadline of April 1st, right?
Sorry, Council Barnhart. Ideally before the April 1st intake, if we were going to make any changes to that, I would like to do that before that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now move on to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, who had an idea he wanted to discuss. I'm giving back to you now, Steve. You have the floor, please.
Yeah, thank you. I think I'll take a moment to kind of explain my idea, and then I'll ask administration where the right.
Just a little closer, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I think I'll take a moment to kind of explain my idea, and then from there, ask administration, where the appropriate motion or motions may live. So the idea is this: in the city of Edmonton, there's what's called the Green Shack program, and what that is it's a green shack in a park, and the Green Shack is outfitted with equipment and materials, consumable supplies to do basically spontaneous arts, culture, and recreation. And what they do is they deploy these green shacks to different parks in the community, and then they're staffed and looked after by a casual summer position. And basically, what this allows is for spontaneous activities for children and youth in the community. So that's the idea. I believe there's two parts to it, though, and this is where I'll look to administration for some clarification. If I could wrap this up into one motion in an appropriate spot, it would probably be less cumbersome. But if we need to do two motions, one for a staff under operating and one for an asset purchase on what I would suggest to be a one-time trial basis to see if Beaumont, latches onto this idea, then just looking for some comments and guidance from administration how I would get to a vote on this. Thank you.
Mr. DeBlanco, please.
Thank you. Through the Mayor to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk. So the appropriate spot for this motion would be as part of the capital budget. It would be a capital ask that has operating impacts of capital with it. So it would cross two budgets, but the appropriate spot would be in the capital budget.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Legislative Services, I'll provide some verbiage your way, and you could set that aside. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion or motions coming forward in the recreation operational budget? Councillor Miller.
Yes.
Ashley, you have the floor.
Thank you. And sorry, I should have got to this first off, but I was just thinking a little bit there. So I would like to make a motion that the funded outdoor programmer be removed from the 2022 operating budget. So to speak on that and explain a little bit as to why I'm thinking that way, I'm not convinced when I'm looking at the description here that this is a position in dire need at this time, based on what I'm hearing, just acting as a liaison for user groups for a salary of around $94,000. I'm just not convinced that this is really something we need to be putting our funds to at this time. What I would like to see is possibly some of the grievances and what is the actual issue with the user groups and possibly the inability to negotiate and come to the agreement, maybe what hasn't happened for programs to move forward, and how that's impacting things right now. So I'm not 100% convinced that this position is needed at this time. Potentially something after I would see, more of a layout of the issues, something that could come into the 2023 budget, but at this time I am not in support of that position.
Thank you for your motion, Councillor. Appreciate that and your explanation for your reasoning. I'll go to Councillor Monkoff-Swain first, followed by Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, and I'll ask Kathy if you have any questions in a moment here. So Councillor Monkoff-Swain, you have the floor, Sam. There you go.
Thank you. And here comes the broken record again. And I hope this comes across as respectful as possible. So where did this come from? Mr. Suter touched on it. It came from the Recreation Master Plan. We spent over a year engaging on that. We talked to every single user group. And one of the key recommendations that came out of that was that we need more programming. We need more programming support. As Mr. Suter mentioned, there is one programmer who's absolutely taxed right now. And I think that this is a gap that was identified by the community. We put a lot of money into that Recreation Master Plan, Our Places in Play, and this was as a direct correlation to that. So, we talked about having backfill and splitting that up between an indoor and outdoor programmer. We can't keep asking administration to build all these nice things for our community and recreation and not be prepared to fund the people that we need to manage it. So I am opposed to this motion for those reasons. Again, I hate spending a whole bunch of money creating a master plan that does extensive consultation and then ignoring it. So as respectfully as I can, I'll be voting against this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Van Nieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you. I won't be supporting this motion. A little bit of an analogy, maybe for a smile, and then I'll talk a little bit more. But anyone who knows me knows I love mowing lawn. I love a nicely cut lawn, and I love driving lawnmowers. We've bought the lawnmower. The lawnmower is turf field, ball diamonds, outdoor rinks. Now we need to get the driver for that lawnmower. And love or hate the analogy, but that's where we're at. We've invested heavily in recreation in the community, being involved with the user groups and the booking system and the changes and everything we heard from Mr. Suter. When we build more and have more stuff to book and more stuff to do, we need more resource to do that. My support for this position comes from and through that lens. So I won't reiterate the points that Councillor Monkoff-Swain said. Further to that, I'll leave it there. But I wouldn't support this motion, and I encourage other councillors not to support it either. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Barnhart, do you have a comment on this particular motion before I go back to the motion?
I certainly do, Mayor. And I would have to say that I will not be supporting this motion either. And I would reiterate the same points that were made. In addition, I would say that having our youth and our children and our adults as well outdoors and not only staying safer, but also staying engaged and active and playing is a form of crime prevention through social development. And I see recreation very much as an important part of our community. We have invested heavily in our facilities outdoors, and to animate them is really important. So I was glad to see this position in the budget, and so I will not be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Miller. Oh, Councillor Tessier, do you want to speak to the motion before I go back to Councillor Miller, who made the motion? Councillor Tessa, you have the floor.
I do have a couple questions on the position, if I may. So what I'm hearing is that this position's going to take over the outdoor rinks, the football field, and organize events for youth. So kind of almost start the city's own user group to run programs. Is that correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Tessier, that would be an evolution of the role, I believe. Initially, we're trying to take pressure off our one booking clerk that we have now. As we add more to the inventory, as I mentioned earlier, the demands on this individual are already maxed out. We have no backup, no redundancy for that position. So when that person's away and there's voicemails for changes that have to be done, there's a lot of frustration that comes through that. So we try to manage it on the fly as best we can. But now that we add more on the outside, I would like to split them. So we've got an indoor and an outdoor dedicated to that, dedicated to the users and their public that are using and booking those amenities, indoor or outdoor. And as well as we evolve, yes, there will be more, hopefully, programming that we can organize and run for the outside as well, not just the community programs, but more sport programming. So hopefully if this position goes ahead, we get the right person in there and that skill set will be evident for us. And that would be our goal with this position. Thank you.
That does clear that up. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McCook, followed by Councillor Miller. Catherine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. Yeah, just a comment as well, actually, and Paul touched on it. My thought kind of goes to when we have our one booking agent on vacation, who's there to cover and stuff like that. I know what it's like to come back from vacation as well and be slammed with stuff and try and keep up. So, and then that equals frustration from the community. And so I think I was originally on the fence, to be honest, about this position a little bit, but in hearing more about it and in hearing that we only have one person with the backlog and with our fields and stuff opening up this summer, I'm in support of this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Miller, you have the
Okay.
floor, Ashley.
Thank you very much. So in closing, what I do want to touch on, because it kind of struck me the wrong way when I hear a couple other councillors referencing how passionate they are about recreation. I just want to reiterate the fact that recreation is probably the one thing that I'm most passionate about, and that is something I heavily campaigned on. So this is not by any means a dig to recreation. This is 100% something that I advocate for, and I'm also very involved in many user groups within the city of Beaumont. That being said, when I hear Mr. Suter yourself saying, this is a position that is going to evolve, you see the evolution in this position, to me, that speaks as a future reference. So I'm not convinced that this is something, I know obviously about the turf field, the ball diamonds in the West Recreation area. All of that being said, I'm not convinced that this is something we need at this time. As I did want to reiterate, I will certainly consider this for something in the next year's budget. But right now, I'd like to see how things go, and I'd like to see what is the current issues that we are having with these user groups coming to terms on booking and stuff. So that's my final thoughts, and thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, for outlining your position. I think that's very fair to say that, and I do appreciate you doing that. Seeing no further discussion on the motion, I'm going to ask Council to vote accordingly. If you could please state your vote. Ms. Barnhart, would you please state verbally your vote, please?
I'm opposed to the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Tessier, thank you. The vote carries 5-2 with a no vote. Votes in favor of the motion were Councillors Tessier and Councillor Miller. Motion defeated, yes. Did I say the wrong thing? Oh, sorry. I apologize. It's a long day, it's been a long week. So the motion is defeated. For clarity purposes, thank you, Sam. Defeated 5-2. Thank you. Council, I do believe that we have no further discussion to be had on recreation. Is that correct? Having said that, I do believe that brings to a conclusion our operating budget discussion for 2022. Council, or Mr. Blanco, is that correct? We've finished off with operating? I believe we have. Did I miss anything? Oh, hang on. He touched the screen. There you go.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The only thing remaining on the operating budget would be the library.
Oh, I apologize. Yes, I had library stroked off already. I'm not sure why I did that. I apologize. Council, we do finish off library as well. If you'll join me on page 76, hard copy 84 in your, if you're doing on the online agenda. And this is the increase of approximately 4% to the operating budget for the library, which is a separate entity budget-wise from the operating budget of the council. They conducted separately. It's on page 14 of the proposed budget, 35,400. Is there any discussion from council or any motions from council regarding the requested increase of 4% for the library for 2022? Seeing none, I'll assume that we're okay to pass the library portion of operating, and I do believe that concludes the operating budget portion of our discussions. Correct, Mr. Blanco?
That's correct.
Thank you very much, council. Next, we move to capital. And if you're looking on the hard copy, it's page 87. And online budget, let me just get there quickly if I could. It's on page 95 of the online agenda if you're looking at for that purpose now. So the procedure we're going to follow, if you could please, is capital is broken down into funded, the renewal section, growth section, then utility, and so on. So I'm going to request council, we simply go through capital as a section, first being renewal. So are there any concerns, questions, comments on the capital budget for renewal, including fleet and equipment, parks and playground, facility renewal program, transportation renewal program, and technology replacement program? And I'll start with Councillor McCook. Catherine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk, through to, I'm not sure, admin. The fourth season concession. I'm not really familiar with it. So can you clarify the use of this in the past, as well as is this something that's required? I know, with the rise of food trucks and that as an option, is this something that's needed? And then have we investigated the amount that it would take in regards to maybe like a leasing opportunity with it? Or maybe if you could just give me a little bit additional background around this concession.
Through the mayor to Councilor, I'll take a stab at that if I can. This was a bit of a joint effort, I think, this submission, so I may or may not be the one to speak on it the best, but I'll give it a try. I don't know when it was last used as a concession. I do know that the capital dollars that are proposed for this project are to bring that space up to a AHS standard for a concession space that someone could actually lease or rent from us to provide that service in the Four Seasons area for passive use as well as programmed use. As well, the dollars earmarked there are for lighting around that area, an outdoor patio, lighting for the playground, the new playground just to the west of that space, as well as some replacing, I believe, of the guardrail and the bollards in the parking area. So some beautification of the Four Seasons parking area as part of that. So in the past, I do know myself, I've had a couple of interested individuals looking at that space to possibly lease from the city for a concession. It of course hasn't been up to standard. I just don't know offhand how many years it's been dormant, if you will, but it definitely needs some work to bring it up to speed. So whether we'd be successful or not on a leasing opportunity is yet to be determined. But that's kind of the history and some justification behind this submission. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarity on that. Do we know approximately what it would be if somebody leased it to us? What the cost recovery on that would be, or leased it from us? Sorry.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it justice to speak to that, to be honest. I think we have to put it out for expression of interest and see where it lands. I think potentially ECDev might be able to speak to that as a cost recovery. I'll leave it with them if someone wants to speak up on that and help out.
Thank you, Paul. So typically ECDev would do a bit of a scan through the region just to find out what market comparables were. So I wouldn't feel comfortable at this time just putting out a number, but that's what we've done in the past.
Sorry, I didn't catch just that last little piece there, Rob.
Typically, we would do a survey to find market comparables, Councillor, and then we would be able to put out an expression of interest for interested parties, just so we knew what the market was. And we don't have that information at this time.
Okay, thank you. And was there significant interest in having this concession kind of brought back to life?
In our department, we've had a couple of inquiries over the past few years, but it's been an interesting few years, so we haven't advanced any.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions, comments, or concerns in the renewal section of the capital budget? Oh, Councillor Van Newkirk, you have the floor.
Yeah, I've got a question and then a motion. The question is just on the BSRC pool sub-slab drainage. I see that there's an allocation for 2022 and then 2023. Just wondering if we could learn a little bit more about that. You know, there's a sentence or two in the description, but just if we could get some verbiage on that and a little bit of an explanation, please, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luckney.
Through the mayor to Councillor Van Newkirk. So the idea there was that we have some money to do some things for next year, but ultimately the pool shut down. We're trying to schedule the majority of the work when there's a pool shut down. So that was projected into 2023. So the majority of the costs to do the majority of those renovations is in 2023. So the cost for 2022 is just some further adjustments to what we need to do and so on. So that's why you see the spread.
Yeah, no, that's great. And that's kind of where I was going, was just wondering what, what level of effort or, facility shutdowns required, but, you're planning on doing it during the next shutdown period. So that's probably the most prudent thing you could do. So thank you.
Yeah, basically the pool would need to be closed down to do that. So we were trying to minimize any disruptions to public swimming programming and so forth.
Yeah, that's great. No, and I think any facility, the proactive planning approach like that is great. So, yeah.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there additional follow-up or another question?
Yeah, and then wanted to make a motion in this section just based upon recommendation from previous, now that we're in the capital and renewal section. And just wondering if Ledge Services has that available yet or not.
Thank you, Aaron.
And this motion would be around the council experience in chamber here and bringing a report back as was suggested by Ledge Services earlier. So
thank you. Oh. Do I need to declare a recess? We'll just wait a moment. What's easier? In about 2 minutes? Okay, we'll come back to you, okay? We'll come back to you on that. Steve, you're okay with that?
Oh, that's fine.
They'll draft it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion, other topics or areas of concern with regarding the renewal portion of the capital budget? I had a question. Oh, thank you, Councillor McCook. Catherine, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. I will have a motion regarding this as well. I'm just gonna give them a minute.
Okay.
I guess, do you want me to just say it, Shalane?
Is it all ready to go?
It's not ready to go, but it's, I think, fairly straightforward.
Okay. Do you have just a general question or a motion? Okay, we're going to go to Councilor Miller first for a general question on this section and come back to both of you as quick as we're able to figure out which motion is able to be put up first. Councilor Miller, you have the floor, actually.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll bridge that gap of time here by just asking this question. Can you just elaborate on the upgrades to the RV park? That's one thing I didn't really get to dive into. So what is that actually covering? And I'm not sure who I'm addressing for that.
Mr. Suter, probably.
Mr. Suter? Okay.
Through the mayor to Councilor Miller, I'll I'll speak to this one again. My understanding is the plan was to replace all the wooden bollards that border the park or the area there, because most of them are rotten. And so both in terms of, it's time to replace them as well as beautification. It's been something that we've had discussion with the Alliance Group about in the past, and that I believe that's the bulk of that ask.
Gotcha. Thanks so much for that.
Thank you, Counselor. How are we doing? Okay, great. Wait, we want a moment here. Have the motion put before us. One of the motions anyhow. Sorry? Who's going to win the race? This looks like a Steve motion. Councilor Van Nieuwkerk, would you please read your motion?
Yeah, I'd move that prior to the 2022 spring budget review, administration provide a report with recommendations on improving the live stream equipment in council chambers. The report should consider the quality of the audio and video, system stability, and software considerations, with the overall goal of improving the consistency, usability, and overall user experience. Thank you.
So given our situation with the audio and video last couple of days, any debate on this motion?
Well, I'll just speak to
Sorry,
it a second. Is
making a joke, but go ahead, please enhance your discussion.
Yeah, I'll speak to it. And there has been a positive evolution of, the streaming and the production from council chambers. We started with a webcam on a stick, then we had a tripod, then we had stuff on the wall. And, I just think that, with the growth of what we do and the increased, number of people that are choosing and able to watch at home, whatever we can do to increase that user experience and the stability of the system in here would be welcomed by all. So that's what I have to say on that. And I encourage others to support that and allow for some consideration of improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I would concur entirely with your motion, your logic, because it does go to transparency, communication, accountability. It's right up our alley, and what the previous council stood for and what this council stands for as well is those principles. So I was looking forward to support this motion. Is there any discussion on the motion from other fellow councillors? I know, Catherine, you're up. This is up for your next speaking? Okay, that's fine. Well, I can come back to you. Okay, seeing no further discussion on the motion, I will ask for the question. Oh, sorry, Kathy, do you have a question before I call for the vote?
No, I don't, Mayor. I'm fine.
All right. Having said that, I will request council to vote. Councillor Barnard, how do you vote?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. And I see the vote is carried unanimously, 7-0. The motion's carried. Thank you. Got carried right that time. I just kill me. There we go. All right, we will now move on to Councillor McCook. You have a motion, I believe. Catherine, you have the floor. As soon as the motion is ready to go, that is.
Thank you. I just have a quick question, so maybe that'll help buy some time. But so my quick question, sorry, is around the playgrounds. The amount that's allotted, is that more just for them to be kind of decommissioned and then plans around how we're going to replace some of them, or rather than replacement?
Through the mayor to Councillor McCook. So we're working on a plan to determine prioritize what needs to be done. So basically at this point we have Four Seasons Park renewal that was completed this year. I'm pretty sure everybody's had a chance to check that one out. We've removed or decommissioned several playgrounds, including Jerry Petsula swing set, Reservoir Park, and Boulevard Park swing set. There are several others that we are focusing on as far as determining what level of renewal we need to do. At this point, we're still trying to determine if there's a replacement or removal, and also looking at how that affects the bigger picture. So I think coming back to 2022, we're going to look at the program, figure out where things are at, focus on the priorities, and then build a plan from there as to how we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to proceed with your motion if it's available? Or Steve, do you have a question on that? Sorry. Yep, no problem. Go ahead, Steve, you have the floor.
Just following on that, I think it's a great idea. And I think that making the plan and taking the time to do that is great. The piece that was missing for the community last year was once you've decided what you're going to do, if we could communicate that a little bit more thoroughly. What happened last year is it was put up in a spot that I didn't realize, the community didn't realize after the plan was there. So if there was just a little bit more of the communication around here's what's going to happen, I think that would be very helpful for the community. I support the review you're doing. I support the money it takes to do that. And I think it's the right thing. Let's just communicate a little bit better on that. So that's all I would say. Thank you.
Through the mayor to Councillor Ben Newkirk. I think part of the limitations we've had in the past have been we want to build something, and then that step to inform takes time, and so we're under this race to get something built in a season, and yet we need to inform. And I agree with you completely. We need to be doing the right job of informing and engaging where necessary, and doing the right things that way. But I think in the past, what's happened is we've just been, okay, this needs to be done. We've provided as much information as we can, but the timelines are just too short to get that out there in an effective timeline for people to be comfortable. We're definitely going to work on that in the future. And it is critical that people understand, hey, here's what we're doing, here's what we're trying to do. And the plan moving forward is to try to be more proactive. We want to project out further, have plans a few years in advance so that we understand what our renewal program looks like.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that.
What should I say?
I think you're good, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. If not, I'll let you know if I need you back. Sorry. All right, the motion is in front of us. Councillor McCook, would you please read out your motion?
I move that the Four Seasons concession be removed from the capital budget. And my reason for that is I think we have some other priorities, and I'm just not convinced around the use and kind of the idea around it, and whether the community will use it as much as we think they might. So perhaps at a later date, if we have more information on cost recovery or the amount of use of it, I would be more apt to consider it. But at this moment, this is why I'm proposing this.
Thank you for explaining
Thank
your
you.
motion. Appreciate that. Councillor Miller, Ashley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I kind of wanted to just piggyback off of what Councillor McCook is saying. I am actually also in support of this motion. I think with the new rec center coming and the 5 diamonds that are going to be in place over there, I think it'd be more beneficial to maybe look at something suitable in possibly that area. Also, maybe the statistics of how this is, in my opinion, may actually be a decrease in utilization once the summer hits, and then there's more traffic being directed out to the West Rec Center. So I'm not sure of how that will affect it. But that being said, I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councillor Van Newkirk, you have the floor on this motion.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for bringing this forward. This item and one that's coming up in the growth side of things, which is the piece of the concession in the BSRC, are ones that I've been contemplating a lot personally. When I reflected on this one being outdoor in Four Seasons Park, I reflected back to the opening of the new park that's right beside it. And I spent some time that week. It's on our bike riding route, and I spent some time over there looking and watching what people were doing and listening. And there was a family that brought their barbecue there, and they were barbecuing. There was another family there that brought A&W there, and they were doing their thing. There was other families that were picnicking on the ground around this mothballed city structure that probably to replace would be $200 to $300 grand. So when we think of not improving the structure, the options are, delay it a year, delay it 2 years, delay it 3 years, or get rid of the building if we're not going to do it. Because the longer we wait on those things, the more the cost becomes. I hope that we get back to a time in society that we're driving a whole bunch of people and groups and user groups back to Four Seasons Park with the significant investment we just put into the turf field there, and into the the continued investment into the parking lot, our RV area there. I hope we get to a point where the traffic that comes down there utilizes a facility like this. So I'm not talking in circles yet, but I'm close.
You're close.
So I'm on the fence. I'm leaning towards approving the 175 to inject, a piece of usability into the park alongside the other investment that we've put in Four Seasons. But I can 100% appreciate why Councillor McCook put this forward. I'm considering something, in subsequent that, may be counterintuitive to what I'm saying right now, right? So I'm on the fence. I'm going to take, a moment and listen to what others have to say here to decide, but I am leaning towards not supporting this and supporting the 175, but I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Councillor Barnhart, any questions? I didn't see your hand go up. I thought I asked you if you have any comments or.
Yes, my hand has been waving, but you probably can't see that. Yes, I also saw this one and flagged it and think that the case has been made for it. But that being said, I wondered if, I think Mr. Suter alluded to the fact that it was a joint effort and perhaps with was intended, or which other department he said was working together with him on that. But
Sorry, Kathy, you've cut out again.
Could be made for, okay, let's get that budget. Let's get that budget for this technology real quick. I don't know what you heard so far, but basically what I'm saying is that I think we can recommission this building and shouldn't just leave it there vacant. As Councillor Van Newkirk said, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, I think we do need to make an investment or take it down, one of the two. I can understand totally why this is here. And I too would like to see it removed from this year's budget for the actual renovations, but I would like to see something come back that says, here's what we're going to do with it. And I don't know if that can be spoken to by the administration as a step forward here, rather than leaving this for a whole other year and doing nothing. That's a question. Can the administration suggest that we make a further study here to determine what's going to happen there?
Through the mayor to Councillor Barnhart, yes, we can look at it further. I do know that, that the concession is something that, like I said, we've been approached already. And I know with the multi-use field, and if council can imagine a home football game there's going to be some people looking for that. So, you're right. We could wait a year and evaluate that. But I'll maybe Director Lewicki wants to comment as well, but I hope that answers your question.
I only heard half of it, Mr. Suter, because my sound went off when you started.
Sorry, Councillor Barnhart, I'll try again. Yes, we could wait a year and reevaluate how we could potentially envision that building. I had just commented that with the coming online of the multi-use field, we anticipate a lot of use in that space. And with that comes a conversation around, food and beverage, right, and being available there. So I think that was why we were looking at a kind of a strategic approach to the space. It's something should be done with that building, and it was a concession, and we'd beef it up and see if we couldn't get somebody in there to operate it there. So hopefully you heard me.
I did, and I think there are lots of opportunities there. I just think that the case needs to be made a little stronger as to what it's going to be before the amount of money is decided as to what you're going to put into it. Because perhaps maybe it's a tea house instead of a concession stand. That has a very different feel to it and may attract people in a different way. So, again, it's the marketing of this idea. I don't think it's going to pass with this budget. So that's my concern. I do see what could be envisioned there. But again, I don't feel that the case has been made strong enough at this point. So I'm on the fence on this one.
Thank you, Councillor. Appreciate that. Just a comment for myself and a quick question too. I do believe the traffic that area is going to improve and increase dramatically with the new artificial turf field between high school football games, high school practices, Beaumont minor football practices and games, soccer, rugby, field hockey, just kids kicking the ball around. So that traffic flow, I think, will increase dramatically, and I think that maybe bode well for a concession. My question is, Mr. Suter and Mr. Lucky, are we envisioning that? I don't remember seeing the budget. If I did, I apologize. Are we envisioning if it does become a concession again, that the city will run it ourselves, we'll staff it, and if we make money on it, it's good for the city? Or we're looking at leasing it out as a primary? Have we thought that far down the path on that? I'm just curious. If we haven't, that's fine. But if we have, what's the vision on the operation of the concession itself?
Your worship, we had looked at this being a leased opportunity for a private enterprise at this point. We hadn't considered a city operated concession, no.
Okay, I appreciate that. So my follow-up question would be then, are we looking at spending the money first to get the concession up and running and then trying to find a vendor to run it? Or are we going to try and find a vendor first who says, if you do this, this, and this, I can become your leasee and I will lease it from you when you go forward? So it's a bit operational, actually. I'll withdraw the question. It's more operational than it needs to be. I'll withdraw the question and I'll move on to, I'm just rethinking that question. I'm going to withdraw it. Thank you. Councillor Miller, you have a comment to make, please?
Yeah, I'll make this quick. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just thought of a question or something that I see that goes on at that site is the other vendors that are plunking down there. How does that affect and take away maybe from the potential business that could be at that concession? So I'm wondering, because I'm in agreement with Councillor Van Nieuwkerk when he's, has that picture of people attending the turf field and just the uptick in traffic and what it should look like. And it could be, super, super awesome. But I'm wondering, is there something in the bylaw that states like in proximity to a city concession or something that I'm just wondering, I don't know the specifics on that. And if that could be maybe amended so that the traffic's more, to that sole building. So.
If
I
I
don't know
may,
who that question goes to.
it's okay. If I may, Mr. Suter, on this, are you referring actually to the food trucks that do go there from time to time?
Sorry, that's right. I think there's an on the spot there. There's an 80 flavors down by the spray park.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen another one, but I'm just wondering that obviously takes away from the concession.
Yeah. I guess if the locally owned food trucks can be a concern, out of town food trucks, just saying
But they
in
are
general,
private businesses, right?
but they're businesses, but they're
Yeah.
outside our jurisdiction.
Yeah, it was just a
come in
thought
and
like
go out
that
again, so.
can't not
Okay.
play a part, so.
Mr. Suter, do you have any feedback on that possibly? If you don't, that's fine, but if you do, that'll be helpful.
I can provide some background on that information. Each year we put an expression of interest out for our mobile vendors at the beginning of the season. And that is how, we determine we've got sites that have already been selected working with administration. And then annually we get feedback from the operators as well of, what is a good site, what isn't a bad site. So that is part of our annual process. And that expression of interest should be coming out end of January.
Thank you. Mr. Mackin? Does that answer your question, Ashley? Do you feel?
So you actually are you work with them, these vendors, to actually be on that site?
We highlighted as one of the sites and how many we can fit in different portions of the city. And yes, we do put that call out, and because it's city-owned property, we just want to make sure that we put a fair and equal expression of interest out for those sites.
Okay, so do you think that's affecting the business at the concession in a negative way?
That concession, since we've done the mobile vendor approach, we've not had an operator in that concession, so I cannot speak to that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Just give me 1 second, council, sorry. I apologize. Give me 1 second. Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion before us? I'm seeing none. So the motion is to remove the concession from the capital budget, which will reduce the capital expenditure in that category of playgrounds from 425, reducing by 175 if the motion were to pass. I'll call for the vote. Council, please vote. Council Barnhart, your vote, please.
I am opposed to this motion, Mayor.
You're voting no, so the concession would not be removed from the budget.
Correct.
Thank you. And I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 yeses and 2 noes. The opposing are myself and Councillor Barnhart. Thank you, Council. The four season concession will be removed from the capital budget for 2022. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Are there any further discussions regarding the renewal section of the capital budget? Looking back to you, Steve, on something that I did not come back to you, we moved it forward, didn't we? That's what I thought. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I'm going to assume the balance of the renewal capital budget is approved as presented with the one exception we just went through. We'll now move into the growth section of the capital budget. Again, on page 87, hard copy, and it's on page 95 of the online budget document. I'll begin with Councillor Monkoff-Swain. Sam, you have the floor.
Okay, hopefully we can do this quickly. I'm on page 96 of the document, or 92 of the actual budget itself, the Beaumont Innovation Park design. As you'll see there, there's $2.2 million in the capital expenditure there for this year. I'll highlight the last statement. Actually, let me ask the question first. If we did not fund this in this budget, what would the impact be to this innovation park?
So through your worship to Councillor Monkoff-Swain, discussions to date with our anchor that we're in discussions with have been predicated upon the site being serviced so that their project can be near shovel ready and they can proceed once their agreements are reached. Also, the 2.2 million is really the engineering and design that's needed to get the ASP completed. The city needs to follow the exact same steps as any developer would when it comes to preparing an ASP, and our MDP clearly states an ASP requires this level of detail.
So maybe let me ask that again in a different way. If we didn't fund this today, could we still move ahead with our ASP planning?
We would not be able to complete the ASP.
In the justification, it says the city could receive provincial funding for the offsite infrastructure as early as the spring 2022. Personally, I don't want to fund this in this budget, and I would like to look to the province to fund that. There is the potential here. I think if we include it in our budget, then that just gives the province even more reason to delay this. So if the province is behind this project, then they should be here to pony up. Clearly, I'm incredibly in favor of this project overall. I just think we've done our share, and it's time for the province to step up. And I would I'd like to move a motion that we remove this Beaumont Innovation Park design from the budget. And Robert, I'd like to give you a chance to have another shot at explaining what could potentially be detrimental here. Give you a chance to collect your thoughts here and convince otherwise. But from what I can see is that the province could potentially fund this. $2.2 million is a big chunk. At any point, if the province says that they're out, then we can always revisit this capital expenditure at any point in the new year. So from a political perspective, I don't think we should fund this right now. So the motion on the floor would be that we remove the Beaumont Innovation Park design from the 2022 proposed capital budget. So I'll,
You speak to your motion.
I think I've spoken it to already, unless, excuse me, if council has questions there. And again, I want to, encourage Rob to speak up and explain why this is such a dumb idea if he has an opportunity to really make sure we reinforce it. So I don't think we need to do this right now. I want to put the pressure on the province to come. You tell me why that's a dumb idea.
Mr. Mackin?
Certainly. So through your worship, to Councillor Monkoff Swain, this engineering and design work is really, it's almost separate than the other funding, because this is going to get this project to a point where it's marketable. It'll get the ASP completed if and when the provincial funding comes through, and we're confident that it will. But even if the situation didn't occur, this site is really no more marketable than just a greenfield field. The engineering design will get it to the point where we will be able to, as a city, look at what lease options there are, what other kind of development options there are, what kind of even, lots could be sold. Without this, it's really, this is the table stakes in my mind. If we want to proceed with an innovation park, period, there's a lot of empty fields everywhere. This actually gets it to a point where it has the engineering and design ready to move with the project. And honestly, this is a component of this project that will get it to a point where we can start positioning the innovation park even beyond where our discussions with the anchor tenants have been. And even the ASP, that's a prerequisite to move forward with any development in this area. So if we delay that, we lose, I believe, an opportunity to build on the momentum that we're getting. And the marketplace regionally and abroad is getting more and more competitive when it comes to these types of projects. So, the word is out, and we want to be able to at least proceed to the point where the project can then be assessed in anchor tenant, province, anyone else can then have an engineering and design innovation park that's ready to go to that next stage. We don't need to go further than that, but this will get us the information as well that we need, that we can provide proper cost estimates for that next phase. It'll also get us the ability to find future land sales or long-term lease rates to get cost recovery. Right now, that is not available without the engineering and design.
Councilor Monkoff Swain, a rebuttal, then I'll go to Councilor Van Newkirk. Not a rebuttal, but a comment back.
Oh yeah, no, we're having fun here, Rob and I. Thank you for that. That's a good explanation. Again, I recognize the value of why we need to do that. I just think this takes the pressure off the province. So the reason for this is purely political here. Gives us an extra fight to go to the province to do that. Again, in the spring, if the province is signaling that they're not going to come forward to this, then we've got a whole new conversation, because it's not just this year. You know what the next year's ask is. And so I think at that point if the province isn't ready to go, then that's a whole other discussion around what we're going to do with that. So for me, that's why the motion is there. And let's see the province come to the table here. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Councilor Van Newkirk, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Monkoff Swain, for putting that motion on the floor and providing that angle. I hadn't thought about it in that light a whole bunch. I was going to ask about the implications of it coming in the spring versus now. So maybe Mr. Mackin, if you could speak to that. But also the budget process that's underway right now. When the budget is approved and when you would have money to spend, what would your timeline, or what would the timeline be? So if this lump of money was approved, what would the timeline be for you to start rolling with this project? And the reason I ask is because often on these larger projects, there's a significant delay before administration, gets tenders out and all that, because there's planning to do and organizing to do and all those good things. So if you could speak to, how soon, how many months after you get the money approved, be it now or spring, does it take for you to get work started? Question one. And question two, if it started in the spring, besides the 3 or 4 months, what other negatives are there? Thank you.
So through your worship to Councillor Van Newkirk, we have already conducted a lot of the initial studies done that are required for the ASP. The engineering design is really that last component that will complete it. So the technical studies are done. We've engaged all of the consultants that are required to provide those. It's a fairly easy flip over to get this next level completed. And we wanted to continue the momentum because again, we have an anchor that's interested. We've had interest in the concept of the innovation park, and ultimately we are just working to get the jobs and the interest in the investment in the community that the councils look for. And this will get it to a point where we believe we can market the innovation park.
Okay, so on the timing, then a 3 or 4 month delay would just be purely a 3 or 4 month delay then.
I can't speak to the specifics, obviously, because that is, but we know that our construction window and season in the area. So we've been working hard to get everything else ready up to this point.
Okay, thank you. I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tessier, you have the floor. Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. So just to clarify, if this doesn't go through, it can still go through next budget cycle, the year after that. To Councillor Van Newkirk's statement, like it could just delay the project longer, but nothing is lost.
Through your worship to Councillor Tessier. So all of our discussions today with the anchor that we're under an agreement with in discussions is been predicated upon that innovation park having servicing. And so ultimately it could impact those discussions, but again, you know, it's council decision, but the discussions to date have been getting it to a point where they would be able to advance their project once their approvals are reached. So
Okay.
it's delay it. And I'm not sure, our discussions have definitely said that we would provide it to that point, and that's why we're bringing this forward.
Okay, so I guess if the councillor Swain, has that always been the agreement that we're gonna pitch this money towards this for the end goal, or you can explain that a little bit? Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So let me just say, I've always viewed this innovation park as a three-party kind of approach. There's the city of Beaumont, the anchor tenant, and hopefully the province. We've done our part. We've put up the debt and we've purchased the land. I know that the anchor tenant is working incredibly hard to get there. All I'm suggesting here, and again, maybe this is getting too cute with politics. What I'm suggesting here is that we unfund it from this budget and put pressure on the province for the next 90 days. And if they are still not prepared to come forward and fund this, then we can come back in spring budget and we can say, let's actually take a look at this site. And if we need to fund it then we can just fund it then 2.2. We've got the room in the budget. But this is trying to put a bit of pressure on the province to come forward. They say they're a party and we hear all these great things from them. Now's the time for them to step up. And I want to use this 3 months to put pressure on them to do that. So it doesn't throw this out the window. All it does is unfund it. And if we need it in 3 months' time, then we'll come back and have this discussion and at spring budget, and Rob can explain what all the steps that we've tried to take. And then as a council, we need to look at this number and then the number that's coming in 2023, which is a lot larger than this one. So it's a gamble, political gamble. I don't know. But
if I may, through your worship to Councilor Montgomery in regards to that point, the one component is the anchor. They are not the provincial, and I just don't believe an anchor that we're in discussion with could get caught up in the middle, and it may impact their overall project and plans. And that would be a shame if it delayed that. I can't speak to the specifics, but they are a party as well. And I also believe that if there had to be an alternative plans other than that anchor or anything else, this would get the city to a point where we could advance a project that would be attractive on the market.
Thank you both for answering that. I'm on.
Yeah, you're on.
I'm on the fence. I like putting pressure on businesses, and I don't like putting money where somewhere it's not a guarantee, right? Where it could be, that 2.2 could be gone and we're taking that risk already with the land, which I understand we can sell, but if we put the servicing in, I don't know if we get that back if we don't see an anchor tenant. And then I hear Mr. Suter's side of saying, will it upset the anchor tenant? I don't know. I don't know where I sit on it yet. So when I look at it, I don't want to lose $2.2 million. If they back out, I'm okay with owning the land because you don't lose anything. So that's my perspective for now.
So let me jump in one last time. I completely, the anchor tenant is doing absolutely everything they can, and this is nothing to do with them. My worry is if we commit to this and the province doesn't come, then if we're committing to 2.2, then we better be ready to commit to the next number in front of us. So that's my worry.
Other people need to speak.
Sorry.
No problem. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councillor Barnhart, you have a question, and I have a couple comments too before I go with other councillors. Kathy, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I've turned off my video, so hopefully you can hear me okay. This is a tough one. A question first to Rob, to Mr. Mackin. Is the request to the province exactly the same as what you're requesting that the $2.2 million would go for? Are those exactly the same services we're asking for, or is there a difference?
The request that's gone into the province, and I can confirm that it has now been presented and put into their capital budget plan for this coming year. Obviously, that's outside of our jurisdiction now where it goes, but it's actually for the whole it's offsite servicing cost. The 2.2 million is just the front end component. So the larger number that you see in the future years, the goal is to have the majority of that covered as well. And then that estimate gets much clearer as we get the engineering and design complete.
Which speaks to what Councillor Monkoff-Swain is saying, is that if we go ahead and start to fund it, the province is off the hook potentially. But again, then they're not part of the project. And I'm hoping that you have better insight, certainly than I do, as to that the province sees this as a benefit to them as well. Maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Yes, through your worship, Councillor Barnhart. I have received word that the council has, or the province has put this project into their capital plan for the coming year. Beyond that, I don't know, but I know, as it was commented, our anchor's working hard, we are working hard and doing what we can, and I can say that. So the $15 million is what is going forward in that capital. Again, we need the engineering and design to be able to go from a more high level estimate to a more specific estimate. And I can't speak for the province, but to me, this is the first step in order to move a project forward on that land.
And I guess my last comment would be here, I don't think that it's a political game that we could win if the province has already made up their mind not to fund it. I don't think this is going to change anything. In 3 months, I think we've lost some valuable time in getting the servicing done. And so I am not in favor of this motion at this point in time, because I think that we will service this one way or the other, and we have to put this land to good use. So to me, I'd rather move on it so we don't lose our anchor tenant.
Thank you, Councillor Barnhart. Appreciate that. I'm going to speak my couple of comments here before I go to Councillor Tessier. I think this would be a huge mistake if this budget motion were to pass. I'm trying to make sure I say the right things. We had a number of closed sessions on this whole situation. I want to make sure I don't discuss something that was done in closed session, but think back to the last council. We built the rec center expecting $3 million from the NDP government. We never actually got. All we got was our minister saying, yes, it's coming, yes, it's coming. Nothing ever happened. This situation is different. Our anchor tenant has met with the government. Our anchor tenant has met with administration. Administration has met with the government. We have had numerous meetings with all three parties involved in those meetings. I am way more confident this government is going to put this project on their priority than the previous government was with our rec center. I think this is a political gamble that is not worth the risk. We, as a council, previously put the faith in the process of doing this project. It's a huge win for us if it comes across the goal line. I think everyone realizes that. playing this small p political game right now, trying to force a problem to show their hand just before they start doing their budget is a risk I'm not prepared to take. I think we've invested too much in this process. I do think we're doing the right things, pressuring the government as best we possibly can. We've had many meetings with them. The previous situation, we had no meetings with the government. Simply, our minister saying, yes, we'll give you some money. Nothing ever happened. We have had meetings with the government. So was our rank lieutenant, and so is administration. So I'm very, very concerned. If this motion passes, it'll jeopardize a very big project that's going to move our business tax ratio from where it is now to where it needs to be, 80-20, 85-15, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact number, but I know it's better than 93-7. And I'm very concerned this budget, this motion, if passes, will jeopardize all the work we've done just to maybe make a political point. I'm not saying you're doing that, Sam. Don't misunderstand my comment. But the risk to me is way worse than the possible gain. And I do believe Mr. Mackin's last comment that the government has put it into their capital budget. I think that's the words he said. If that's the case, it wasn't our previous minister saying money's coming, nothing ever happened. We've done all we can. I think we need to back up what we've done in previous situations. So I'm definitely opposed to this motion respectfully. Thank you. Councillor Tessier, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Daniluk. Yeah, really tough position. You're both giving really good valid points. You know, we paid $11 million for the land and 2.2, and then if that happens, my only worry is if the anchor tenant pulls out and we got to service this land. If you look at other communities that have done that, they've gone into major debt for years and years until they can fill those voids. I don't know which way I'm leaning right now. Please, someone ask a few more questions so I get some time.
Let me help you with that, Councillor Tessier. So, Mr. Mackin, if I could, before I go to Councillor Van Nieuwkerk, I'm assuming this motion will be defeated, and we're going to move forward with this area structure plan and so on. The official budget comes down, I believe, in February, does it not? We will not be spending any part of this 2.2 million effectively by February when the official budget comes down and we know where we stand with official government. So to take a gamble now, if the budget was coming down in August, that's different. The budget comes down, I believe, in February at some point, if they're on schedule, which I believe they are. So to take this gamble in the next 60 days, to me, is not worth the risk. If the budget was in August, we're not sure where they're coming down. I get that, but trying to give you some more reason to think, Councillor Tessier, I think the initial budget is coming down very soon, and 90 days goes, or 60 days go by very quickly. And I'm confident from the capital budget comment made by Mr. Mackin that the government we're on their radar for this project. And I'm very confident it's going to go through. And worst case scenario, if it doesn't go through, then the anchor tenant pulls out before we service the land, we can sell it if we needed to. And that was an option we always have. So I don't think there's a risk here by this motion passes. And then I'm feeling quite passionate now more to think about it, but I think all due respect, this needs to be defeated with all my energy and conviction and persuasion. Councilman Newkirk, you have the floor. I will have the last comment on this one, by the way. I'll take that liberty today of having the last comment. Councilman Newkirk, you have the floor. Pardon me. Yes, now you do.
Yeah, thank you. The mic's as red as my cheeks. Now we're good. So there was a new piece of information that I learned tonight, Rob, or we learned tonight and you shared with us. And that was that, you know, this had been delivered to the province and included in the capital budget. Just Rob, a really direct question. Is there a need to move into closed session for you to provide any further updates on this project to council? Is there any other information that we don't know that administration knows subsequent to our last update? Thank you.
All I can say is we provided all of the information that we have to the government of Alberta, and you know, they are in their planning stages right now, but we've had requests, we provided the information, and it was in their preparation. So that's all I can say right now, council, but we are providing the information and this is part of it. I don't think there's any need to go any further than that. We've had confirmation, we've had discussion, we've provided them the details.
So that's a no need to go into closed session. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion before I make a final closing comment before I call for the vote on this particular motion? Thank you. My last comment is simply going to be I don't want this council to be put in a position where we had a chance to move the needle from 93.7 to 80.20, and we blew it on a small political risk with the budget coming down in February. And I believe the capital budget with the federal government, provincial government has this on their radar. I'm confident they're going to come to the table. So I'm not prepared to gamble. On that note, I will call for the vote, please, council. Councillor Barnhart, your vote, please.
I am opposed to the motion that's on the screen.
Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 6-1. The motion is defeated. Thank you, council. I appreciate the lively debate. Never a dull moment in council on a Friday night. Greatly appreciated it. I think we've made the right decision, but it's always good to question things. And I appreciate Councillor Montcalf Swain making that question. Councillor Montcalf Swain, you have a comment? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, I'm seeing 9 o'clock. I'm hesitant to go any further this evening. I know it's been a long week for everybody. It's also Friday night. That doesn't really matter, but it's also 9 o'clock. We have a fair bit more to go through unless council has a very strenuous objection. I would prefer that we recess till Tuesday at 5 o'clock to finish off the budget. I believe from talking to Mr. DeBlanco with the break, if we do finish off the budget on Tuesday, you can still make the budget presentable for our December 14th council budget. Is that still your interpretation at this point? I'll get you Sam in a second. Oh, sorry, Curtis. Thank you.
Yes, if the budget deliberations are complete on Tuesday, then administration is confident we could bring it back on the 14th.
Thank you. How does council feel about the recess? Sam, you had your hand up, and also Steve. So Sam, will go to you first, please.
So two things. One, I'm not available Tuesday. So that's one person. And then looking at the capital budget, if I promise no more crazy ideas, I think we can get through this in 30 minutes. I don't know how many more motions are really to come. I've only got 2 clarifying questions personally. I think 30 minutes here, we could wrap this up. I'd hate to defer it and set up a whole new meeting, get everyone all back here and spend 30 minutes on it. So I think we can get through it in 30 minutes. And so I think we should carry on and finish off tonight.
Steve, your thoughts?
I've got a few bullet points. I can move fast. I think there's support for a couple of them, and one is a question. And then that ends me. So your call, Mayor.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I'm feeling that there's more questions coming on the growth, and there's more motions coming down. From my understanding, we have several motions provided by councillors on capital and some point in growth, and we have utility to go through as well. So I'm going to make a judgment call, and I'm going to call a recess of this budget deliberations until Tuesday, December 7th at 5 p.m. And so I'm getting the green light. Give me one. Sorry. Okay. Let me just go to you, Ms. Winter, please.
Thank you, Mayor. If I'm just going to pop a motion up on the floor, and if I could just have a motion of council
Thank
with
you.
regards to scheduling the meeting.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And I appreciate everyone's opinion on the situation. All right, can I make the motion myself? Is that appropriate as the chair, or should I have someone else make that motion? I'm good. I move that administration provide notice to schedule a special budget council meeting for December 7th, 2021, starting at 5 p.m. Council, is there discussion on the motion, please? Seeing none, I will ask you all to vote accordingly. Councillor Barnhart, may I have your vote, please?
Yes, I'm reluctantly saying yes.
I'm reluctantly saying yes also, but I do appreciate the candor and the honesty with that answer. That passes unanimously. Thank you all for doing that. I appreciate that and the courtesy of the extension. So at that point, I'll then call this meeting into recess, and we will reconvene Monday at 5 p.m. Thank you all. Enjoy your weekend. Thank you for your contributions today and this evening.
And I was like,
We heard what you meant.
it was Tuesday. Yeah. Wait, got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Sam,
Sandy, do you want to stop the live?